Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stew Simpson Show podcast. And a few weeks ago, we had a lovely chap on the show called Dan, and he told me about the Camino de Santiago. And ever since, I have been obsessed, and I've heard the call of the Camino once again. And Dan put me in touch with a lovely chap called Bradley Chirmside. Have I pronounced that right, Bradley?
It was perfect. It's perfect. First time. That's impressive.
Thank you very much. Well, that's what I aim for. So, right. Tell me, when did you first do the Camino?
Wow. So my very, very first Camino de Santiago was way back in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Camino Frances, which is the French way. I've been back on the Frances since. Also done the Camino Portuguese, also done the Camino Inglés. And to be honest with you, I've been on the Camino so many times, I can't even remember how many times I've done it and done it on my own, done it with my wife. And it's just become like a lifelong obsession, to be honest.
Wow. So before you started, did you think you'd do it more than once? Because I've got this thing in my mind that I only want to do it the once and then that's it.
Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, Stu, but once you start with it, because it's like, sorry for this really cringy link to Pringles, but once you've stopped, you're never going to stop doing the Camino. I nearly said
Really?
pop, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. But you get the picture, you get the gist of what I'm saying. That for me and for many people I know, the Camino becomes a lifelong obsession and a very healthy and positive one too.
Yeah. So what is it that keeps bringing you back to it?
It's a great question. I think just the purity of going for a long walk, how good that feels, the slow burning happiness, the release of serotonin you get from doing that 8 hours a day on the road. Yeah, it's a very, very addictive high and a natural high as
Really?
well. I've never done a drug in my life, to be honest with you, so I couldn't speak for any other kind of highs, but it's a very, very natural high. The people, the locals you meet on the Camino, they ooze character. The pilgrims you walk with, the same, they ooze character. The stories they have to tell, the connections that you form with fellow pilgrims from all over the world, people you ordinarily haven't met, but you end up telling them your life story, your deep innermost secrets after having known them for like 24 hours, sometimes having known them for 10 minutes. You just start telling people your life story and whatever it is you're going through at that moment in time that might have pushed you to decide that you need to go for a long walk to work out what's going on in your head. There's so many things to it. It's addictive, it's beautiful, and it's what we were born to do as humans, which I believe is move.
Yeah. So what was it that drew you to it in the first place?
I think exactly that. I was looking for answers in my life at the time, and everyday life wasn't giving me those answers. The general drudgery of working 9 to 5 and feeling like you're in a rat race. I needed to pull over into the slow lane and work out what it was that I was doing with life, and the path I was on wasn't proving to be a positive one. Unsustainable as well. So I felt like it was a good time to do that, and it did yield answers.
In the first one, did you do it the whole thing in one go? Or did you come back to it
No, I did the whole thing in one big go. Yeah, I walked from France, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is the official starting point of the French way, all the way to the Atlantic coast of Galicia, in a place called Finisterre, which means the end of land.
Oh, you went all the way? You went all the way?
I went past Santiago, and so 900 kilometers, I think it was. Just 891, I think, is the official total.
Yeah, amazing. Because I'm considering, I didn't think about the end bit, because long story short, I've got an ex-boyfriend who lives in Galicia. And I didn't know that because he lived there when we were together in England. And then he's like, "Oh, if you're going to do the Camino, come and say hello." I was like, "What?" So there's really weird kind of it feels like circuit, and there's some stuff from my own life which needs sorting out, which some of it is to do with him from the past. And I do wonder that if it's, and that this call came about 10 years ago, ignored it, and I met Dan on this film that I've been doing with him recently. and it's kind of like it's calling me back, and it's bugging me every single day now. And I feel as if I don't give into it, it's just going to keep coming at me. Does that keep happening? Does that happen often with people?
I think it's a familiar story that you're telling there, Stu. The call of the Camino is a strong one for many people, and I had a similar calling. And what the story you're telling me is something you hear many times on the Camino, and in my own podcast, I've heard probably, I would say 90% of my guests say the same thing. The call is there. It's something that it comes from the heart. It's speaking to the heart, and you have to heed that call.
Oh, I can't get out of it then.
I don't think you can. You may try, but I think you're already signed up halfway.
I think so. I've bought so many books. There's so many books. But did you start seeing any sort of signs when you decided to do it? Because I've been actually seeing like symbols and signs. For example, for years I've had this bath mat. No thing for whatsoever. Just there, came with the house. One day after I'm thinking about doing the Camino lockdown, and it's a shell. It's a scallop shell. And then the next day, I walk into Stratford Shopping Centre and I see yellow arrows all over the floor. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then the third day on the way to set, I see an actual sign that says Pilgrim's Way. It's like, so I know apparently there's a thing called the cupcake effect. Your brain, once you start wanting to see things, then your brain will put yourself into those positions. But it just seems a little bit much. Did you see signs and stuff like that yourself?
Oh, what a lovely question. I think there's two ways to look at this question, and there's always, I guess, sometimes your head and your heart that assesses these signs. Like your heart would think, this is a sign that I must do it. Whereas your head would say, don't be silly. This could happen anytime, anywhere, about anything. And I think with the Camino, it's always a decision that's made from the heart. And from what I learned about the Camino and those signs is that in actual fact, whatever we switch our attention to, we're going to start to see signs. If I think is the correct path to follow. This can never be verified officially because matters of the heart and the metaverse can't be, can they? Metaphysical matters can't be. It's something that you're not going to measure quantitatively. It's going to be a qualitative measure. But for me, there was no bigger sign than bumping into an old friend on the London Underground when I got onto the wrong train. I got onto the wrong train, and a friend of mine that I went to university with, he was on that wrong train, and he'd been trying to get in contact with me.
Oh, wow.
So he said, I've been trying to contact, and he's kind of an elusive character, very elusive character. He has no social media, and he has no he's a bit of a bit eccentric character, shall we say?
Yeah.
And and he just said to me, you were the person I thought of as I was doing this walk. I thought you should walk this and I should tell you about it. And that was weird. And I think 9 months later, something like that, I think I was on the Camino 9 or 10 months later. Yeah, the time was right. And the seed was sown. So there are signs too. And I think it's, depending on what kind of person we are, if we're a person of the head or the heart, depends on how we assess those signs. But if your heart is in doing the Camino, it's just going to confirm that you're on the right path.
Yeah. I guess the answer for this is yes. But did it change you?
I don't want to be cliche, but yes, it did. And you may hear many people say many different stories of, it didn't change them or it wasn't so profound. But I came to a realization myself, on every Camino I do, there's always something I learn about myself. And the Camino has changed my life forever. I ended up writing a book about it, and I never thought I'd end up writing a book. And that book's done really well for a first-time standalone debut. I guess that first time means debut. So for a debut standalone, it's done really well, and it's doing really well, and it's given me it's given me an insight as to the kind of career path I want to take long term. So it's changed me from that point of view. It's changed me from knowing about the power of going for a walk. Someone once said to me, Dev Cuny, is from San Francisco, and they said to me, it's solved by walking. And that's always sat with me on my Pilgrims podcast. I think it was episode in the 20s somewhere. Dev Cuny said it's solved by walking. And never a true word's been spoken. If you're not feeling good, just go for a walk. Even if it doesn't have to be the Camino, just go and walk for 10 minutes, an hour. It will alleviate whatever you're thinking and feeling, even if just for a moment. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. It's just the power of going for a walk. So thanks for asking, Stu. Yeah, it has changed me. Changed my wife. You know, she heard me going about this thing called the Camino, and my God, she's addicted to it and always bugging me and pestering me when we're going to go and do our next one. So it's an amazing experience, and I would firstly urge anyone that wants to do it, if they're not sure, to listen to the Pilgrims podcast, which is the podcast I used to host. I'm not hosting it anymore because since the pandemic came in, life's kind of taken over and I've had to move out of kind of full-time gigging onto a more conventional career path. But anyway, listen to the Pilgrims podcast. There's lots of tips on there from 87 episodes. And also just send me a PM. I'm happy to always answer and help.
I thought I recognised your voice because I've been listening to that. I didn't know it was you.
It was me.
Small world. Yeah. I was like, I know this voice from somewhere as I've been listening to
annoying
your podcast.
Voice. Yeah, that annoying
not
voice.
Annoying at all. When you said you do, what's it called? Are you gigging? Were you a comedian or something?
No, before COVID kicked in, I'd been a full-time singer.
Oh, excellent!
That was how I made my living.
Me too.
And then, it was, I just fell into it. It was a complete accident, but it'd been my living. And then obviously that wasn't my living when March 2020 hit. Like every single bit of my income just disappeared. So I had to think on my feet, and I'm now doing something different, which is I'm working for a company that is what you could say a celebrity therapist, if you want. Helping to train people to become therapists, basically.
Oh, wow.
I'm not training the therapist, but I run the events, I host the events, train the therapists, kind of facilitate them. It's a lot of fun, and it's a career path I'm also interested in myself, and intend to pursue a career as a therapist myself. So I'm learning about therapy as while I'm hosting it, which is a win-win situation. And I get the training. I get to do the training at a discounted price, which is always nice as well. And
that'll be an excellent thing to do on
one day. One day I could see myself walking and talking people to.
Yeah, that's just what came to mind. I thought that'd be brilliant. That'd be excellent to go and have therapy while you're having a walk. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely. I honestly, it's on my long-term plan to do something like this. So, but I also am starting the gigging again. Next month actually. So I'm now going to have like 2 careers on the go. So I'm going to be a busy boy.
Excellent. So speaking of training, so did you train for the Camino before you went to do it?
Listen, I didn't need to train personally because I've always been a runner and a swimmer and athletic myself. So, but in actual fact, there's nothing really that can train you for a long distance walk apart from long distance walking. So I had the aerobic health already, and I was strong and always have been, thank God. The best training I could say anyone could do for a Camino is, let me try and break this down into 3 things easy to remember, is make sure you've broken your footwear in. And I would recommend a pair of trail runners. You don't need boots for the Camino, really. Maybe if you're doing it in the depths of winter, perhaps. But even then, I wouldn't be sure it's a necessity. So break your footwear in, break your backpack in, because it sounds silly, because once you start wearing that backpack every day, you're going to find out where you're going to get chafing on your armpits or under here, how it feels on your how it feels on your shoulders, how it feels on your waist. You're going to know all those points where it feels uncomfortable. So you need to get used to that. 8 hours a day, you're going to have that thing on your back. You need to practice with it. So maybe one long distance walk on a Sunday if you work during the week, and try to build that up to 6-8 hours, stopping a few pubs along the way or whatever. For you, Stu, I know you're up in the north of England sometimes, so the Leeds to Liverpool Canal will be a great place to go, because there's it's completely flat and a good chance to just get your legs and muscles and the muscle memory going. What I say, backpack, breaking backpack and boots. And let me give one last tip. Travel light. Don't take any more than, if you can get away with 7.5 kilograms with food and water in your bag, that would probably involve a maximum of 2 changes of clothes. So what I mean is, you've got 1 change of clothes you're wearing, you've got 2 changes of clothes in your backpack. Yeah. And layers. What you need is layers on the Camino. You need layers. So, because if you're walking early morning, it's cold in the morning. It's very, very cold. And when you walk in Spain, that's when you need to walk, because it gets hot. Yeah. It gets hot. So you need to get in your walking hours early doors if you can, if possible. So yeah, definitely you want a vest, you want a t-shirt, you want a warm jumper, and you want a waterproof jacket. And you want a hat, gloves, and scarf all times of the year. All times of the year, because it's bloody cold in the morning, even in the summer times. By the time as the day wears on, you get to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, etc., you'll start to peel off those layers and stick them in your backpack. And maybe you've got to do an evening walk sometimes when that temperature drops, or you're up in the mountains as well. There's some massive, very high mountains where the temperature can drop a lot. It can drop dramatically. So you need those layers. Layers is important. Yeah. So backpack, backpack, breaking boots, get the layers in. Get the layers in. And get the miles in as well. So 1 long distance walk on a Sunday every week, if possible, or whatever day it may be, and that will serve you well. And also, just whatever you do, gradually build up those daily distances. That's a big mistake I made. I've gone out doing 30, 40K early doors for the first 4, then day 4, 3, 5, 6, 7, you are just in pain. Your muscles are in shock. So just slowly build it up. Maybe start with a 15 at 20, and then go on to like a 22, 25.
Yeah, I've been reading here and that a lot.
Yeah, and if you need a rest, just take a rest. If you've got the luxury of time, if you need to take a rest day, get your blisters sorted, or just give yourself muscles. And the superpower thing I recommend everyone take with them, that I will take with me on my next Camino, and what I should have taken with me on my last Camino, was magnesium oil.
Oh, okay.
Magnesium oil is like magic. So it's basically a muscle relaxant. So you have to be careful, because if you take too much, it can loosen parts of your body you don't necessarily want to loosen, if that makes sense. Yes, especially
if you're not close to a toilet, that'd be quite difficult.
Exactly, but just a little coating of magnesium oil, kind of from the lower back, hips, thighs, hamstrings, calves, on your first few nights, and it will keep your muscles nice and loose. And we're all deficient in magnesium, so the magnesium oil is really important. Just like take a 75ml bottle. And it's like a magic potion for a pilgrim. Magnesium oil. It's something I will take with me always.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll definitely put that on the list, because the other couple of extra things I was thinking was a dictaphone, because I'm going to put the podcast. The third season of the podcast will be like a diary from every single day on the thing, and then hopefully meeting other people, interviews, and all that sort of stuff, and a sketchbook. So I hope by the end of it, I'll have lots of drawings and a little diary. So that should be interesting. But the one thing that I am worried about, because of my ADHD, I've got a terrible sense of direction. Is it easy to get lost?
I think it's harder to get lost than not to get lost.
Right.
And I think that varies from Camino to Camino. But which Camino were you thinking of walking?
I'll be doing Frances to stay safe.
Well, the Frances is very well signposted, very, very well signposted. I mean, I have got a lot. I did get lost, and I have been lost, but it's pretty easy to find your way back. And you know, everyone's got phones if they want to use them. I'm personally loath to use my phone on a Camino because I like to think I'm going back to the days, you know, before phones existed, and that's the beauty of the Camino. Really, is like it's a throwback to an old age where, you know, phones didn't exist and people just communicated, you know, and, you know, without having looked at their phones. I think it's such a missed opportunity when we're on our phones on the Camino, personally. But these days, everyone's addicted to them. You see what I'm like when you message me. It takes days to respond because I actually delete the apps off my phone like during the week, so I'm not on it. I think long story short, it's not on the Camino Frances. You'll be okay. And if you do get lost, just go back, retrace your steps until you see a yellow arrow.
Cool. And is it an expensive thing to do, the Camino?
Listen, if someone's on a budget, I believe they could get away with €30 per day.
That's very cheap.
But you're obviously on a budget and you're obviously buying food from supermarkets instead of eating out. But saying that, I mean, you can get like a pilgrim menu. Spain is so cheap still. You know, I've been in London recently. I buy a coffee. It's like a coffee and a sandwich is like 10 quid. Yeah. And then I'm just down here on the seafront, and a cup of coffee is €1.50, and a bocadillo, which is the big sandwiches. Yeah. You see that everywhere you go. Bocadillo. It's like a big French bread sandwiches. You know, you get a coffee and a bocadillo for like €3, you know, on the Camino. Pilgrim menus as well. They, you know, look out for the pilgrim menu. That's called Menu Peregrino. Some places do that for like, you know, €7, but you get a starters, a main course, and a dessert and a coffee.
Wow.
You know, for that, you know, so
that's amazing.
Your digs, you know, if you're staying in the albergues, which is the special pilgrim hostels for Camino de Santiago pilgrims. If you're in the summertime, you might struggle to get a place because they're so popular. But any other time of the year, you're probably okay, and you'll get away with. I think the last time they were about $8. Right. I was on the Camino Ingles last summer, and they were going out for $8. But you're talking a bunk bed in a room full of other people. Yeah. So if you're willing to rough it, you can survive on $30 a day.
So if you don't manage to get an albergue, if that's the way I pronounce it, if they're all booked up, what are your other options? Is it bed and breakfast, or
your other options are to get on the phone and use Booking or Airbnb or whatever, or you do it the old style, like, you know, no room at the inn, you not go from door to door. That's what I tend to do, because that's the magic of the Camino. Yeah. It literally I love the fact that it feels like you're just doing something so
that really appeals to me.
Something so, you know, from a previous age, you know. Something so primordial, you know, and just kind of knock on each door, and they say yes, there's room, or no, there's not room, and if that fails you, then you can get, you know, that's the point where my wife starts complaining, and I'm like, right, I'll have to get on the phone. But, you know, I'm trying all other ports of call first before I have to get on my phone. I do not want to be on my phone.
Excellent. So is it different?
I hate these things.
Well,
I love them and I hate them. Yeah. Sometimes they're great, you know, in everyday life, when you got to get somewhere and you just use maps. It's like, wow, that's incredible. But just looking at it, you know, 25, 50 times, I think 150 times a day, we're supposedly looking at our phones. I think that's the one thing I might regret when I die, is I spent too much time looking at our phone.
Oh, it's awful. I mean, as I actually I had the old Nokia for years and years and years, and people kept laughing at me for having it. And I was like, it's because I don't want to be on the phone all the time. But because of the job that I do, I lose work because I don't have a phone.
I agree with that, Stu. So we have to I need it for my job as well now. So we have to yeah, we have to accept that. We have to try and use it for positive reasons. Yeah. And if I find myself just scrolling, I'm like, throw it away, you know? So
yeah. And it's but me with my ADHD as well, apparently it's a dopamine thing, and the things with these things, it's you do get a dopamine hit every time you get a notification. And it's the way
that's what makes them so addictive, and the phone companies know that. That's why they design them the way they do.
Yeah, it's a pernicious, evil thing. In terms of COVID, do you need to show vaccination certificates and things now?
I mean, it's an ongoing, ever-changing situation. So what I'm saying today could change next month. So I couldn't give advice on that. I could only say what I know about Spain currently, and that is that I know that you have to have had a booster within the last 270 days, or you can't come in. I think that's correct. Let me think. Yeah, if you've had 2 doses of a vaccine and your last dose or whatever dose you had was more than 270 days before your arrival, then you cannot come in. So you would need. No, in actual fact, no, you can't come in. Not even, they won't allow unvaccinated tourists.
Yeah.
So, for example, I had my last dose more than 270 days ago. I've only had 2 doses. I don't want a third. That's just my personal preference. I've had COVID twice and I've been fine with it. And so I decided, me personally, that I won't have another booster.
Yeah.
And so the only way I'm allowed back into Spain is because I actually am a resident here.
Right.
So that's why how I can get back in Spain. But I have to show a negative test to get back in. Long story short, tourists that are unvaccinated cannot come in. And if your last dose was 270 days ago, then you're classified as unvaccinated. That's today on May the 2nd, 2022. Who knows what it'll be next month, because they're changing it, they're changing it.
Well, I'm recently 3rd boosted, so that should be all right for a while. It should be okay.
You're good for the next 270 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because I don't know if I'm going to do it. How do you decide when to go in the year? That's also my other problem that I've got at the minute. Because if I decide to go soon, basically the next 6-week block that I've got is in June or October, and I don't really fancy walking in the autumn, but I also don't massively fancy walking when it's ridiculously hot as well. So
June will be very busy as well.
Yeah.
Like very busy, very, very, very busy. October will be less busy and you'll be more likely to get a place at the albergues in October. And the weather will still be nice in October. Obviously, you can get up in the mountains and stuff. You're just going to be hot. Cold. But that would happen even in the summertime.
Yeah. So October would still be all right.
October will be, the mornings will be cold. You're going to need to wrap up in the mornings. But as that sun climbs, it'll be warm. You will feel that warmth for sure. That actually will be very, very, temperate, very, very nice. It'll be very nice at that time of year, I think.
Well, that's really helpful because I still want some time to do a bit of training. So that'd be that's perfect, actually.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And Camino family, have you picked up many along the way?
Of course, yeah. The Camino family is always growing. It grows from your Camino, it grows from your podcast, from the podcast as well, and it continues to grow. And now you're in there as well, Stu.
Oh, that's so lovely. So, we're part of each other's Camino family. And so's Dan. How nice. And I met a woman from Germany, randomly in a pub who'd been on the Camino. She was like, I'm going to do that next week. And now I mentioned this in my podcast a little while ago, and my neighbour from across the road, she's going to do it this month as well. So it seems to kind of grow exponentially. It's quite
massively popular. It's having a big comeback right now after the pandemic years. It's having a big comeback.
Excellent. So last but not least, how do they get a hold of your book?
Wow, I don't like to do this big sell. It's not me, Stu.
So just do a little sell.
That's why I use like advertising platforms to do that for me because I
Okay.
don't like doing it. But so my book is called The Only Way Is West, and it's my walk on the Camino Frances, and it's got 468 reviews on Amazon.
Wow.
4.5 out of 5. So most people like it. Some people said they hate it, which is always the case. You just have to accept that.
Yeah.
And for those who did say they hate it, thanks for giving it a try. For those who were kind enough to give me 5-star reviews, thank you as well. And you can always learn from your lovers and your haters. So that's
absolutely
a good thing. So it's called The Only Way Is West. It's available on Amazon, and it's on audiobook as well on Audible. And it's done well. And there's a lot of humor in there as well. A lot of very descriptive travel writing as well. And if anyone wants a funny travel log, but also I like to think that it's very I like to think it can move people. Many people have written in the reviews that it's moved them, and other people have said that it was trite. So I always want to give a balanced, honest view. I don't think it's it is what it is. It's a book I wrote, and I'm in the process of writing many more. I've got projects, probably like yourselves too, so many projects.
Ridiculous amount of projects.
I've got a book called Up North at the moment, which is I've just had it edited. It's about living a southern guy like myself from down south in England, living in the north, and how funny life is in the north of England. And I love the north of England. It's really taken me by surprise. Bloody cold, but people are just so lovely and ooze character as well. And that Up North is coming soon as well. So I'm always drafting every single day. It's writing is my passion, singing is my passion, performing is my passion, and I've taken on a kind of a day job because COVID taught me that it could just blow up in your face anytime, really. Absolutely. So I never want to be in a situation again where there's no money coming in. But The Only Way Is West. Anyone wants to listen? Wants to read it? Thanks a lot for giving it a try. And
if people want to get in touch with you, where would they get in touch?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, and it's Bradley Chirmside, Chermside. Stu, you said it perfectly. Author on this. I know it's long. I need to change that, but you don't think of these things when you first make accounts. I'm not very active on there, to be honest with you, but I do use it from time to time. Also Bradley Chirmside on Facebook. You can look me up, you'll see a picture of me in a sparkly jacket on stage, which is very cringy as well, but you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
And the Pilgrims podcast, if you are interested in the Camino, there's 87 episodes with different pilgrims and literally hundreds of tips for walking a Camino. Amazing. You'll get from that.
Bradley, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thanks for your time, Stu. It's always a pleasure. And any questions you've got on the Camino, feel free to drop me a PM or a DM or whatever they're called.
And this is going to be the first time we're going to ever say this to anybody ever. And I'm sure there's going to be lots and lots and lots more opportunities. But buen camino.
Yes, you finished it correctly. Well done. 10 out of 10. Buen camino, Peregrino.
Buen camino. Grazie. Cheers, mate. Take care.
That's Italian, by the way.
I know. I realised that I did that. It was when I said it.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.